First, before we do any committee business, I would like for us to have a moment of silence prayer for Vicki Taylor. She passed and she was late the rest of today. And most definitely, she was one of our dedicated employees for many years. And she definitely will be missed. So, if you don't mind, bow your head for a moment of silent prayer. Amen. Okay, first order of business is approval of minutes. I have a motion to that effect.
Mr. Chairman, I've read those minutes and find them to be in order, and I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion.
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, update on sale of surplus property.
Mr. Salmon, Deputy Mayor Salmon is going to make that report, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, just a quick update and some things that we've sold and personal property items for the county. We had a company to contact us from Bluff City Law that's doing a TV show or something down in Memphis, and so they needed some courtroom supplies and stuff, and we were just so happened to have a few courtroom supplies and fixtures. So they ended up buying, and I'll just run down through here right quick, 53 oak chairs, 14 oak pedestal chairs, which you can't use, but that was the jury type box. 4 6-foot legal tables, 2 sets of the metal letters that were on one of the courts going in there. 1 pew that was 7 foot, 8 pews that were 16 foot, and 5 pews that were 12 foot. And we negotiated price back and forth and got $12,100 for those few items. So we thought we did pretty good there. Also, the sheriff had 31 cars, and we looked. All of these cars did not run. I mean, all of them did not run. So they were in bad shape and ready to go. They'd been behind a fence and they needed to loosen up some area, so some space for a few more cars that needed to get in there later on. So anyway, we checked a lot of the places around that would take cars and crush cars, and they wanted us to pay a hauling fee and this and that and everything. And so we finally found a company in Manchester that would pick them up, and actually we didn't have to pay a dime. They actually picked them up and paid us $250 a car. Wow. So, which was really good. That was above the average in what we found locally. And we know all these cars are going to be crushed, so they're not going to be in another country somewhere and with Rutherford County Sheriff's Department on or something. So that's another good thing too. So we got 7,000. What's that?
Woodbury not want them?
Woodbury didn't want them. So yeah. So we received $7,750 there for a total of $19,850. So just wanted to bring you up to speed on that.
You didn't have to auction it off?
I didn't have to auction them off. I didn't. So we did do some negotiating there with getting what we thought the prices were on the cars and not having to pay haul bills and stuff like that. So, but
Good job.
thank you.
And all that
Any
money went
questions?
into general fund?
Yes. Yes.
All 19,850, that's how it's...
Yes, sir.
That's great. Thanks, Steve.
And it's already in there.
I got to check.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda, update on courthouse renovation.
Yes, sir, I've got, thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are the final bids that came in last Tuesday night. We'll start good catch, Carol. With the contractors, it was put out to bid, and you'll see on the second page, that was the winning bid. Company in Laverne. They seem to be cutting their teeth on here, right? They did the former part of the renovations on the cupola, and so they're quite.
We didn't have enough.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
We didn't get one. Okay, everybody got one. So they're used to the courthouse working here, and we feel pretty good about these bids when they came in. So here's what let me give you an update. Mr. Klein, Bart Klein with Klein Sweeney sent me this. We are ready to move forward. I think it's next Tuesday, they're going to have a pre-construction meeting here in 205. They'll go through the process, they'll go in. I'll execute the contract with them and give them the green light. They'll show up with all their bonds, insurance, everything required by the bid. So we can probably see them moving equipment in towards the end of next week.
Is that Williams?
Williams and Laverne.
They're the ones that did the jail and put the brick in.
That's true.
Yeah,
And did a wonderful job.
Okay. Well, they, you can see they sharpened their pencil from there. That's what it is.
They were just skeptical, they were
Yeah,
low.
they knew what they were doing, so. I mean,
was able to keep it in Rutherford County.
yeah, kept it in Rutherford County, which is good, but this room's gonna get a makeover. We'll have new carpet up and down the steps on the interior. Lighting on the exterior, et cetera. You got your questions answered, did you, Commissioner?
Yes, sir, I did, and I'll communicate those back.
Okay, all right.
Were your questions about some lighting components?
Yes, sir,
Yes.
I figured
Okay.
some other people had
Good,
gotten
okay,
it
good.
as
So
well.
There was a gentleman who had questioned, a constituent that questioned that, and we called Mr. Klein a few minutes ago downstairs in the office before we came up, and he confirmed that those lights would not damage the roof.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that they were,
They would be putting a track.
they were already existing lights, and they would not be reattaching anything else to the roof. And he said the bid was for the lights, and he stayed with the bid as far as, he asked something about substitution, but he said that was the,
Well, and I think that's what you get into when I guess when you bid, they wanted all the contractors to bid the same thing.
Yes, sir.
As opposed to substituting. Once you get into substituting, you don't know what they're bidding, so
like quality, I
like
guess.
quality. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Okay, the
So
question,
I'm kind of excited about that.
When's the pre-con? You said it was
next Tuesday,
31st.
Need a motion?
next Wednesday, 31st.
What time again? I'm sorry, you said it, you just said it.
To 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
So this will be with the 665, 858 plus 15601.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad the best bid was from Rutherford County. That's always feels pretty good.
It does.
Especially if it's somebody you're comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it done work here before?
Yes, sir. You know the track record.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we accept Mr. Williams' bid.
Okay, I don't know. I don't think we need a motion, we did that in purchasing.
Yeah, I think it just goes straight on, so we'll just, this is
Okay.
just for information, so it goes straight to the,
We have already accepted it in
we
purchasing.
just accepted the bid, so it's, all we gotta do is just inform the full commission. Okay. So we'll start work next week, I hope. All right.
Progressing right along.
Any questions on this courthouse renovation? Any more questions? If not, the next update on old judicial building.
Yes, sir, the old judicial building is, we have turned that over to the PBA. And Mr. Pickelsheimer and the PBA are working with the same company, I believe, Ben?
Same contract, or the architect.
Same architect that worked on the new judicial building. And of course, as you remember, we have, Steve is no longer going to be the eyes and ears for the PBA, and we have elevated Ben into that position to work directly with the PBA on the PBA's behalf and our behalf as well. So we're waiting on those documents to come back on their final numbers for renovation of floors 1, 2, 4, and 5. So hopefully we'll get those back soon.
Reagan Smith, who's, or Gresham Smith?
Gresham Smith.
Okay. Going back.
Yeah. All right, next, update on One Stop Building.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Talked to Nick Christensen. He said that he would try to have, by the end of this week, which is tomorrow, he would have all the language ready to be prepared to, we've already gotten the, everything's done from the city, so we're just waiting on Nick to put together the language, and he will forward it down to the Department of Procurement, the state of Tennessee, who is acting on behalf of the Department of Safety, so we can sign the long-term lease. But I don't want to move forward until we have something in writing saying that the Department of Safety, Highway Patrol, Safety is going to long-term lease that other side of the building from us. We do know that the city of Murfreesboro, Steve, I think they're ready to start pushing dirt on their new fire hall, which will be right behind our building, closest to the Blackman baseball facility.
So basically, you waiting on a memorandum of agreement from the Department of Safety? is that right?
As soon as he prepares that and sends it to them, then we'll wait on that, and hopefully, unfortunately, the state moves kind of slow, but I think Commissioner Long is, he's excited about getting this going, and so he may get behind the push.
From his enthusiasm of the meeting in your office, I would say it's just a matter of
Sure.
time.
Yes, sir.
Short time.
Any questions? One Stop Building? Okay, next, update on Rockville Fire EMS property.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I asked Michael to come tonight to kind of give us let us see what our concept might look like out there. Kevin, myself, Larry Farley, Michael, Steve, and Cuz, we all met out there at Rockville
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, was it? Okay. So we met out there, and just by happenstance, Jim was going to get his hair cut. The owner of the property, he was going to donate this property to us. And he stopped, and first we were looking to the right of the, if you'll get out there on Concord Road and look to the right, back towards the creek, he was looking at that piece of property, and then when he met us, he said, you know, if y'all can fit it over here on the left-hand side, there's actually, it's higher, we won't have to put in as much fill because it's out of the flood zone, and it'd be better for our step system. So I'm gonna turn it over to Michael and let him kind of give us a brief on this.
Thank you, Mayor, Chairman, Commissioners. Mike Hughes, Rutherford County Planning and Engineering. We're looking at property at 8300 Jackson Ridge Road, this parcel right here. It's tax map 146, parcel 38.01. It's 5.34 acres. And as the mayor mentioned, we first looked at this this side of the barn over here closer to Concord Creek, but now we're also looking at this about 1.5 acres on this side, and I'll show you when we get to maps. Like I mentioned, it's currently owned by the Thompson family. It's under their revocable trust. It's the total acreage is 5.34, so we're looking anywhere from 1.5 acres to 3 acres of land. The slope of the land is it's gently falling about 1.5% to 1% towards Concord Creek here. It's bounded on the east by Jackson Ridge Road, State Route 269, on the north by Concord Creek, and then some residential property on the south and in the west. Like the mayor said, there is some potential flood zone, and I'll pan out a little bit and turn off contours and turn on FEMA. When you look at the FEMA flood maps, it says Zone X. It says not in a flood zone. However, if you know this area, you kind of pan out and you can see where FEMA terminated the study a little farther to west on Concord Creek. They just stopped it. That doesn't say the flood zone stops. It just says that's where their study stopped. So looking at this property, the elevations of the flood zone, and the elevations, the Concord Creek drains to the west and it flows into the Harpeth River eventually, but this is a pinch point here at Highway 99. It's a large box culvert, but you've got Concord Creek and you have another stream flowing in here. So most likely you have a lot of area that is in the flood zone. So if Murphy's Law were to happen, a heavy storm comes like we've had time and time again, or this box culvert gets clogged, this creek could back up in a portion of this field. So what we would look at doing on this side, and I'll try to zoom in, if we did choose this side, we would have to elevate anywhere from, let's see, 2 to 3 feet where we set the building, the parking and everything to bring it up out of the flood zone. The highway is up a little bit around 760, 761, so it potentially could come up to this elevation in a tremendous flood or something blocks that flow. Yes, sir.
In May of 2010, do you know what effect?
Well, we have aerial imagery from, actually it's on Google Earth, from May of 2010. And the river system, the floodwaters rose quickly and then eventually went down pretty quickly, relatively quickly. This area, I think it went up and down pretty fast. Let me go back in time. So the aerial imagery is, I think, 2 to 4 days past when it stopped raining. I'll go back in time. You can see where it's cut for hay several times. This is August, and here's May of 2010. So you don't see any standing water in this river system. It's still holding water in Concord Creek, but it's, you know, floodwaters will go up and then come back down. So, but still, to be safe, either we do a hydrologic study or hire a consultant do a hydrologic study and tell us what the flood zone is here, or we elevate it above the nearest overflow elevation, which would be Concord Creek. I mean, the box culvert at Salem Highway at Concord Creek. So this side is a little more challenging. Over here, this side is well above that spillover elevation. We wouldn't have to do any filling on this side. We just do some earthwork to mold the property the way we need it. Let's see, property is zoned. Let me turn contours off on the FEMA map. The property is currently zoned commercial services, and that zone with the fire and ambulance station, that would be an administrative services classification, and it is a permitted use in that zone. So we could do it on, you know, situate a fire hall there and not have to go through rezoning BZA or anything like that.
They donating the whole 5 acres?
I
Or just
don't
whatever?
believe so. I believe it's
He just said
3
take
to-
whatever you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and of course, I don't think he wants to tear down his milk barn because he's got a couple of little businesses in there. They're no longer milking, but there's some just, you know, some kind of businesses. But he said, take what you need. I'm willing to donate that to you, because the other side, he wants to put some mini storage warehouses like he has over his
Oh, on the other side of Highway 99.
Highway 99 where he used to be. Yeah,
This-
that's his location there.
This is Jim Thompson.
Yes, Jim
Yes, sir.
Thompson.
Okay.
But he wants to make it good, and of course, I'll go back to Director Lauer before he left CTAS, and his last, if you'll recall, back in the fall, his recommendation on where to locate, this was what he made recommendation to Public Safety Committee, was the number one location for us to build a new fire hall would be in Rockvale, and then Kittrell was second. Am I correct, Kevin?
I think so.
Yeah.
I've slept since then, but it was,
Yeah.
there was 5 sites. And that was the first. And to have property potentially donated where you actually need it is very unusual in my experience in my previous life at CTAS. So this is a huge blessing for us if we can make it work.
Commissioner Reed's been working on Jim real hard, didn't twist his arm or anything.
It hadn't been
No, he's
that
been
hard.
He's been very gracious. He wants to do it, and he loves his community, and
I can tell you, my phone went off this morning at 5 o'clock, and Jim called me and he said, I'll do whatever it takes to work with the county on this. He says, I'm going to do this as an opportunity for the county and for the community. Jim looks at this as a payback for what this community has given him. As a teenager and whatever, that community basically took care of him, and he wants to pay back the community with something. And he wants to give this property back for the community to use from now on. So he says, we'll make it work, whatever it takes to make it work, so.
So the prudent thing would be up here where we don't need to do any filling or anything else on to the right of that
I
barn.
think he realized that.
Yeah, so
When he was standing there talking to us, he said, well, you know, if y'all need this over here on this side, that's fine with me.
would that be enough acreage and everything?
Well, there's a little studying that we need to do. So the big thing that we need to look at is suitable soils for the fire hall, for restrooms and cooking and everything like that. I checked with groundwater protection, TDEC groundwater protection, who writes the septic system permits. They could not find record of a permit for this barn at 8300. That's not to say that there was never one written, it's just they can't find it. So
Might have been before they had to
it
run.
might have been before they had good
That's what I'm
record
thinking,
keeping
because-
and things like that. So the soil on this property, closer to the creek, let me turn off the aerial images so you can see. Closer to the creek, you can see this EG, that's Egum soil, Egum silt loam. It's a really thick clay, and it holds water a long time, mainly close to rivers and creeks and streams like Concord Creek. And it's typically has a infiltration rate of greater than 75 minutes per inch, and that's higher than, that takes longer amount of time, and usually the state does not allow that for a septic system. Likewise, the Talbot, 2 kinds of Talbot, those aren't usually suitable. However, there is a big swath of this Harpeth silt loam, which is really good soil. And this soil types, I should say, comes from the Rutherford County, the USDA soil survey, and it was mainly established for farming, not for designing septic systems. what a soil scientist would do would go out, look at this map and say, okay, I'm going to start searching in this area for suitable soil because this says that there's this Harpeth soil here, so I'll start looking around here. I checked with Randy Dickerson. He's with the Soils Group, and they're the grandfather of soil scientists in Rutherford County, and they did not have record of any soil evaluations or study on this property. So we would have to hire a consultant to go out and, surveyors to stake it, grid it off, make a map, and then hire a soil scientist to go out and test the soil for suitable soil system.
See if this be the best perk side?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right.
Versus
Right.
building that up.
Yes, sir. Now, that's not to say that there might not be any soil there.
Right.
But typically, he'll start looking where it tells him that there's some good soil. And
In the barn right there on part of it?
It's part of it, yes, ma'am. Barn's right here. And the gravel drive, this is most likely disturbed. But there's a big swath of good soil up here.
Okay.
So that's to me is something we need to look in a little bit more. Make sure that there's suitable soil for a septic system,
Right.
for restroom and facilities.
And we say we're putting a fire station and an ambulance station?
Yes, sir. Right. It would be
Joint
fire.
facility.
Yes, sir.
Would it be like one building or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
You'd have living quarters, essentially, cooking.
It'll be our first combination, and what we'd like to do is make this just replicated for every station around the county in the future.
Would you have to set the building back and do
Yes,
this?
sir. Everything would have to stay away from that suitable soil. So it would be tricky. We need to see how much we need for the number of people that will be staffing it. We'd have to work with the TDEC groundwater protection to formulate how much square footage we need from a soil scientist map that they generate prior to that.
I would think that would be tricky trying to get a parking lot and building.
Yes, sir. And I've looked at a little bit. I didn't bring them with me, but just some concept plans of trying to fit what
Like
we're
we're showing
looking
the front.
The elevation, yes, sir. This is the Barfield Fire Station 1, and they have 3 bays, a downstairs and an upstairs, and just some preliminary evaluations. We've talked with Kevin and Larry and said, hey, let's add another door to the bay and let's put everything on the first floor. So what I did is I took the footprint, added enough room for another bay, and took the top floor and put it on the ground and tried to fit a building in there. And that's what we're working on. So, but until we know how much room we have to work with to stay, we'll have to stay out of that area for the soils. We really don't know.
I'd like to put that ambulance closest to the building in the first bay.
Right here.
Larry says, Kevin, they need a engine.
Wouldn't it
Pumper.
be cheaper to go up 2 stories than it would be on the ground?
Well, that Director Lauer
I'm
could
sorry,
probably
I didn't hear that.
answer that.
I said, wouldn't it be cheaper to go 2 stories than it would be just all 1 story?
From a roof standpoint, that is cheaper. But we also try to take a look at what's the quickest response as far as the living quarters and stuff like that. If we do need to go 2 stories based upon the footprint of the building and the soils and all the stuff like that, the interior of this would be dramatically reworked. They've learned a lot, living in that station for a couple years. So we'll do our best to be as reasonable as we can, but at the same time ensuring the quick response as far as the timing to get out the door and the safety for the personnel as well.
Sliding down the poles, there's ankle injuries and whatnot. So.
Put it in slide more.
We do have a slide at this station, and it is a safety concern, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning. The tones go off. They're coming down the stairs and stuff. So if we did go with a 2nd story, we would have a slide or something so that it would be safer and quicker to get down into the bay The poles are, insurance doesn't like the poles, so.
But the old,
I like the poles, but.
the old adage that it's cheaper to build up than it is out is not always holds true.
Yeah, it may be cheaper from a initial cost standpoint, but we definitely want to look at our
Functionality.
positives and negatives all the way around and just come to the
Safety
best
features and
concept.
everything, yeah.
That's what I was thinking too, the safety features in it is a whole lot different than what it was a few years ago too.
Right. Yeah, a one-story station is a lot safer, and especially you can have the zones and set it up appropriately to get. There's a lot more. I mean, there's so much more to facility design than there were even 5 years ago.
How many square foot is on a floor?
There is
That-
2,900 square feet, I believe, in each floor.
Okay.
I think there was 6,000, let's see, it's hard to see. Yeah.
Plus the bay.
Right, yes, sir. Forgive me. The first floor is 6,056 square feet, but that includes the bay. The second floor is 2,000, almost 2,300 square feet. So, 6,000 minus 2,300, so you've got, 4,700 square feet for the bay. And that's a 3-bay setup, so.
Add another bay.
Yeah, we're talking about adding another bay, just giving them a little extra flexibility for an extra vehicle out there. I'm sorry.
They drive through on that too, don't they?
On this one they do, and it's actually a very tricky setup over there. Oops, let's see. Got an aerial image of their facility. Now
It's tight.
it's tight. It's like 0.8 acres. I mean, they're using every square inch of it. Their septic system is actually off-site over here. And they have an off-site easement for that. But they have a very tight maneuver through the back here, and then they can come out in front.
What do we need to do to get this in motion? Give us some guidance.
Well, I think the first step is, if this committee is ready to move forward, we can sit down because with Mr. Thompson, and we can, I think this committee would need to give direction. I guess we need to say that we would like to build it, and tell Jim we want to build it on the shorter side, and so how fastly, Michael, could we determine that?
Well, we would have to hire a surveyor to grid stake it and map
Okay.
an area, and then hire a soil scientist to come in and evaluate the soil and tell us how much suitable soil we have. And then from that, we can make a lot of decisions.
Okay, I guess that would be the motion that would come from this committee.
I think we need to make the motion that, need to set this in motion to give them the authority to go ahead and do whatever needs to be done. So how it needs to be worded, you're very good at this, Becky.
Do you need to hire a soil
I will make the motion, but you
scientist?
write it.
A surveyor, a registered land surveyor. A registered surveyor would put out grid stakes,
For his taxes.
and they would create a map, a soil map, and they would give that to the soil
That
scientist.
doesn't have to go through
And
us.
he
They
would
can go through
draw in the soil, so he'd have to go out and do tests in the pits.
Then we'll say.
Soil scientist and surveyor.
This,
What, we need to give us this amount of acreage.
You're probably looking at a couple $1,000.
that's what I was gonna say. It'd be a minimal amount of money
Yes.
to, so.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
The motion is second. Any more questions, discussion?
You wanna read our motion?
Authorize hiring a registered surveyor and a soil scientist for work on the future Rockdale Fire EMS station location.
That's good.
Are you saying the soil scientists and the surveyor together will run around 2,000?
It might be more. I mean, you're probably looking at 1,000 for the surveyor and maybe 1,500 for the soil scientist. So 1,500, 2,000. So 2,000 to 3,000 maybe.
Just so we know a ballpark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't beat that price for the free land.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? If not, call the roll because this will have to go to budget.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes. Okay, under any other business?
Mr. Chairman, there's two more things that are not on the agenda. One, Mr. Blair has brought before us, and then if I could, before we get into that, and that'll be the last thing, just an update on the archives. I got a letter from Mr. Klein just a few moments before I came up here. This is a letter, of course, the PBA was working through PBA Chairman Picklesheimer, and then Bart is going to be the architect, Klein Sweeney. And this is a letter to Mark. He carbon copied, no, I'm sorry, it's to Mike from Bart. It says, "This is Bart Klein. Ben Mankin reached out and asked if I could get a hold of you because you are complete with the contract documents for the archives building and ready to proceed with bidding and contract negotiations. We have also received all comments from codes and everything is ready to pull the permit. Please let us know how you want to proceed." Also, Ben mentioned that we were going to negotiate a contract with a contractor opposed to a hard bid. Is that correct, Ben? That's correct. Okay. And following are some names of contractors I would recommend for this size project. Barron Construction, Romac, and Dowdle, D-O-W-D-L-E Construction. So that's just an update on where we are on the archives. So it looks like everything's about ready to go there and negotiate with PBA, negotiate with whatever contractor they get the best price for instead of a hard bid. Okay, and then the next item, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Blair and representative from Smyrna Parks and Rec is here.
Okay, come up.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, this Mr. Jimmy Stitt from, did I say that correct?
Yes, sir.
Stitt, from the Parks and Recreation in Town of Smyrna. I have passed out a, you can call it a lease, Mayor, it's also, I guess, known as a memorandum
Of understanding.
of understanding for your purview. Mr. Brian Hercules, the town manager, gave this to me and asked me to bring it to the mayor and to this committee. It's regarding 18 acres directly behind the county clerk's office that is vacant land presently, and the town of Smyrna would like to utilize as practice fields. And then, of course, Mr. Stitt's here to answer any questions about that.
How many practice fields will fit on?
We were looking at that. We'll probably go smaller size. I was trying to draw them out. There are some manholes and some communications that are out there on that area. And so we were trying to fit some in. We were hoping to get 7. The way I was drawing them in, like I said, some will have to be smaller kids to be able to get that. Hold it up there. G Street, 9th Avenue.
Yes, sir.
Just go over and let him.
No, let him drive the bus.
Mr. Mayor, I think I pulled the wrong parcel up. I pulled up the county clerk's office, so I don't know if this is a separate
Talk to Lisa
identification.
about that.
I think the address is actually 290 G Street.
That might help too.
Oh, no, whoops, lost my GIS. Okay, let's do it on this one.
We're back at the barn.
Back at the barn. 290.
G Street.
Now, Commissioner Reeves said that is where, that barn is where every decision was ever made in Rockville. For the last 50 years, right?
Let's see, there's Air Force Base.
You're right there.
Right here. Okay. Well, the gremlins are attacking us.
Number one is right there between 9th and 11th.
Yes, that's the county clerk's office.
Right.
I apologize for the pixelation. This is part of some of the old Stewart Air Force Base. You can see the Cadet Street. Come on now, don't fail on me now. We've had some security software updates that they don't like to talk sometimes. But this is the property that the airport is just over here, and this is some of the old housing. And I apologize for the pixelation. There is some flood zone on this property. AE, this is X 500 year. This is out of the flood zone here. But this, like I said, if we did anything with this, we would have to elevate it above the flood plain. Back when I was in the consulting engineer, actually this was one of my design projects right here. But
At one time, we was talking about making a park there. Because if it flooded, it was okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's when we was gonna build the county clerk's office there,
so
if I remember correctly.
he is correct. There are several utilities because they used to have base housing over here. There's a sewer line that runs through here, stormwater detention back here, but there's electric, gas. I mean, there's a myriad of things in this area, but being, practice fields would be a good use of the property.
That's what we talked about when we was building the county clerk's office. Were you on county commissioner at that time?
Oh, ma'am, I already left.
Steve, I think you were.
Steve,
There's a beautiful magnolia tree right there in the middle of that property.
Oh, is it
It's
really?
big.
This is a hackberry. I know that one.
That one right there.
This one, yeah.
Yes.
We're looking to expand the parking maybe over here for the county clerk's office is one thing. So we'd like to reserve a little bit of that land for
And we need it
additional parking.
first and the 15th of the month. wasn't
Yes,
it?
sir.
We
Ma'am.
need it.
Yes, ma'am.
Where would the parents of the players, where would they park? Just along the road?
Well, what we looked at is, you can see the Cadet Street, there's a good gravel base that's down inside of there. And there used to be also, I think, a parking lot up in that other corner.
Yeah.
And so we thought about adding some gravel in that area, and then if we could do something with the Cadet Street, maybe some slant parking on there. Of course, we'd put up the appropriate signage, no vehicles past this point. We'd probably have to add some dirt. We've already bush hogged it and took a look at everything, and like I said, some of those manholes are, 2.5, 3 foot high.
Yeah.
And along G Street, and there's some out in the field. So we'd have to get creative on exactly where we put back. We want to put some backstops out there and finish mow it, get it down, and see exactly what we have to work with.
And that means we don't have to mow it if you're mowing it?
Yes, sir. We would maintain the property. We would mow it. We would love to use it for, like I said, recreation leagues. We might use it for a couple of programs, but it's nothing vastly organized out there. It's not like we're running leagues out there. It'd be mostly practice areas. Like I said, do a couple of areas for parking.
This is back in 2007. This is before, I guess,
There was a building there that exploded. There was an old barrack that was there that exploded.
I think it was a gas leak or something like that.
I'd like to see it go for a park or practice field.
We currently have leases that we run similar to this. We've got Life Point that we have practice fields at. State of Tennessee, we've got a lease with their rehabilitation center, we've got a practice field there, and of course, the Greenwood comes through Rutherford County Board of Education over at Smyrna Elementary School, and we piggyback this lease against the Smyrna Elementary property that we currently use for
Plans in
practice.
use.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't like to see it sitting vacant.
I think it's a good idea.
How many years would you like?
We wrote this as a 1 year, and with renewals, we'd love it for as long as you give us. The longer we get it, the more we could pump money into it.
Sure.
Is this basically,
90-day out clause, anything like that?
There is a, I want to say it was 30. 30 days.
30 days?
Yeah, that's how that was
Out of
30.
9. Basically, this is a generic lease agreement that you think we need, I don't think we need to run this by the attorney, do you? Especially since item 12 addresses the whole harmless agreement thing there, that we're not responsible for anybody's injuries, damage, or anything else. So it's pretty straightforward.
Which we arbitrarily kind of put, y'all don't have this map, but,
Right.
And that gives you a lot more area, kind of where your property line is with that 201 with the county clerk. I don't know how far you guys
We
would
might
expand
want
out.
to lease up, well, the plan was,
We're going to do whatever.
we were going to extend the parking up here, and they could connect to this
Oh,
MARTA
okay.
driveway. But if MARTA's going away, we could talk with the mayor about maybe using this area for parking and have people just walk over here if MARTA's going away. And
Leon was talking that there's some geothermal right behind this thing here. You think it's in the grass where we've been mowing already?
I don't know exactly how far, there's a ditch.
there's a pond that wraps around this way, makes an L
It goes beyond that pond, but there's some wells.
on the other side over here.
No, behind towards the road.
To the south here, you mean?
Up from there, behind the building.
This side?
I'm sorry, to the left.
To the left. Okay, over here.
Right there.
Okay.
There's-
Yeah, we
there might
were
be
going to
some-
extend the parking to the north, I guess you'd say. And then just, if we did build parking over here, that was the plan, to add queue lanes for the drive-through and add another drive-through window like that. So if we could leave a little bit of this area just until we figure out what we're going to do.
I'm sure they're big cooperative.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if there's not any objection, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, any other discussion?
And you don't want it to go through the county attorney?
I'm gonna talk on that.
Yeah.
I'm
Let's be
gonna
on
talk
safe
on
side.
that.
Let's just run it by.
I know that's right.
So contingent upon,
Contingent upon approval of the county attorney.
contingent upon the approval.
They may be
Contingent on
a little
approval
dot and
of
tail
the
that
county
wouldn't.
attorney.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any other discussion on it? There's no money involved per se on our end, so we're gonna have to have a roll call. All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hold on just a minute. Go ahead and adjourn, and then I got something I need to show.
Any other business to come before property management tonight? If not, meeting's adjourned.
Okay, everybody hold still.